Hi, welcome to This Week in Property. I'm Jayashree Kurup. I'm editor at MBTV. I have with me Prabhakar Sinha. He's the real estate editor of the Times of India. And we are talking about a very contentious issue, of order that has come, that an individual property buyer can file a complaint at a project level, and it will be heard at the project level. Helping us navigate this entire order and how this plays out in the real estate space is Abhilash Pillai. He's partner in Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. Thank you, Abhilash, for joining us. To put the case in context, this is the Umang Realtech, where two buyers went to the NCLT. The rest of the buyers formed an association and went against that particular plea. And finally, the NCLAT has said that there is going to there are some changes that will be. Abhilash, what are the changes that have been proposed?
Yeah, so this is a very laudable judgment so far as the buyers are concerned, but I think it will have some practical difficulties in its implementation.
Let's go through what are the provisions.
Yeah, one of the biggest suggestion which has been made by the NCLAT is that the resolution should be restricted to the project which has been which has triggered this NCLT or the CARP process. That is the biggest suggestion which has been made by the NCLAT. I'm not sure how this is going to work in the current real estate scenario.
Even if that project is not in an SPV.
Even if the project is not in SPV. Now, the IBC, the basic law of the restructuring and the insolvency law, says that the restructuring of the company has to happen. It is not a project. It is not the restructuring of a project. It is not the resolution of a project. So, in my view, this judgment has to be in sync with the IBC if it has to be implemented across the industry.
Yeah,
that's what I feel about this judgment.
And actually, it depends. Real estate is a peculiar business. If there is an SPV and if there are 4 projects in an SPV, everything that is purchased is at the group level. It can be cement, steel, it can be your service providers. Everything can be sourced because there is, the numbers are there and you can get better rates in that. But when one project, and also one of the things, Abhilash, I think which has triggered this is that when one project fails to take off, the buyers of that project go to NCLT. There are 3 or 4 other projects which are in various stages of completion. Some may be at final stages of completion where all you need to do is put the lifts and clean up and the project is ready. Now the consumers there feel that once this goes into NCLT, the whole process slows down. The IRP has to be appointed, the COC is constituted, there has to be a voting, and even projects which they were almost on the verge of getting gets delayed. Would you like to comment on that?
Correct. So you would have noticed that in the last 2.5 years, we haven't seen an effective resolution of a real estate company which has gone to CARP process. We have seen all these cases are getting either compromised or settled before the formation of the COC, and then they are going out of the CARP process. Because I think it's not easy to get a resolution applicant or a new promoter to come in and take over existing liabilities and continue with the project. The biggest reason is that in almost all the projects, your unsold inventory is a very few. You don't have enough unsold inventory which can be sold subsequently and recovered by the new promoter.
That's not true, Abhilash. A lot of cases, when we look into it, we find that actually there is a lot of unsold inventory which may have been put in dummy names. The developer may have been holding it, but when you actually go to the list of registered buyers, it's not that there is not enough unsold inventory, but that inventory itself, its value in the market has been eroded so badly because the project was not completed that it's not possible to either find a buyer for that, or even if you find a buyer, to get a good price for it.
So 2 things are there. One is, yes, there are unsold inventories, but that the value of the unsold inventory will not be incentive enough for a new promoter to come in and take over that project. That is one thing. Second thing is there are dummy buyers in a project, which would be the relatives or the sponsors of that promoter who is in trouble. But you need to do a forensic audit to understand who are those buyers and what are the source of funds infused into the project there. So yes, there are practical difficulties.
And it's a tedious process.
Correct. Now, if you look at this Umang Realtors case itself, even during the CRP process, two sale have happened. Two units have been sold off by the IRP himself. So that means it's a good project. There are buyers who are interested in doing this, and they have seen the status of the project, which is nearing completion, which will be able to complete in a short period of time. And that project shouldn't have been dragged to NCLT by the buyers. So you know that, okay, if the project hasn't been launched, or we have instances like in Gurgaon where the projects have not been launched in spite of receiving 90% of money from the buyers. Those are the projects where you can consider taking to the NCLT, because a new promoter has to come in and take over the project, or a resolution of that company, the real estate company is required. In these kind of projects where it is nearing completion, where 90% of the work is done, it's only 10% of the work, like a clubhouse or a swimming pool or a gym in place, or in a couple of lifts which will have to be installed. These projects should not be dragged to NCLT. Because
But Abhilash, if you take, sorry, why don't you complete it?
No, it's longest one bit. What I have seen, and why the NCLT is almost failing in most of the cases, is that another two situations here. That one project is only half made. Buyers they are dues towards buyers also, but they are not paying. But there is not sufficient money, or there are just sufficient money to complete that project. Now the two issues here, that if suppose original developer is not able to complete it because buyers are not paying. Okay, that is the main reason. But new developer will not come because there is not enough juice to make profit out of there. So they will also not enter in the market. Now RERA says that, boss, I don't have power that I can take the project from the developer and give it to somebody else. I can only appoint a contractor and will try to complete the project. Besides that, I don't have any power. But NCLT has the power to take the project from that developer and give it to somebody else. Now here I believe that either some mechanism should have been developed so that
between an NCLT and RERA's, working together. And because one is a regulator, the other one has the power to get it completed. If the two could get together, you would have cleaned up the market. Unfortunately, it is
buyers association itself. Now suppose a buyer association should be formed, or an IRP. Such an IRP should be appointed who has the wherewithal, or who has understanding of completing a project, who is not just an accountant, but who knows how to get a project completed, has a managerial skill also. That kind of IRP should have been a panel, and those kind of IRP should have been appointed in a project, who should be allowed to complete the project with the help of COC, which is up to just buyers, and there are no bank association, bank's money is there, and the project could have been completed. Now here in this case, in this judgment, NCLAT is trying to find a solution. They are saying it that, okay, fine, let the existing IRP itself should act like a developer and should complete the project. Now the issue is this, that IPC doesn't allow that.
So I would like to add to what Mr. Sinha said right now. So RERA is a legislation which casts obligation not only on the developer, it also equally casts obligation on the buyers. For example, the RERA says that wherever the buyer is not making the payment to a developer, as per the time,
penalty should be put on them.
Penalty should be on the buyers. So the RERA empowers the developer to approach RERA and seek directions against those buyers who are defaulting on their payment.
Yes.
We don't have a single case till today where the developers have proactively reached out to RERA and seek this direction. So it has to be on, it can't be a one-way traffic. It has to be a mutual process where that is how this law will evolve.
Actually, it's a very contentious stage of the market
Correct.
where the developers will not go against the buyer because they themselves have defaulted.
Correct.
But even though there are provisions where they can say that the buyer is not paying me, because it's not only the buyer payments that is holding up the development.
Absolutely.
The development is being held up because money has been diverted from one to the other. It has been moved from project to project.
Yeah.
There is a lot of hanky-panky that has gone on in
It's
the
a
system.
cobweb which is there, which you have to.
And
No,
some-
here two things that I want
No,
to
but
ask you.
I think
as a journalist.
as Prabhakar's point, I would tend to say that it requires some deep thought, where there is one agency which has been given the mandate to get it through to completion. There is another agency whose mandate is, let's find out what is left in that thing and let's make it a functioning entity. If the two very powerful entities work together, then there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's not happening.
Correct. As Mr. Sinha said, that the IRP has a legal obligation to run the company as a going concern.
Yes.
What does it mean to run the company as a going concern so far as a real estate company is concerned? That means you have to continue the development of those
Yes.
plots or the
Exactly.
or the flats.
Yeah.
Now the question is that does the IRP will have that expertise in completing
Exactly.
those projects
Exactly.
and
So
handing
that
over to
managerial
the-
skill requires to be there.
Correct.
And it's a
Correct.
complex system.
Yes,
It's not.
It is not.
Real estate is not easy.
Correct. Because
Right?
you have to deal with various
So
authorities.
two things here I would like to highlight.
Yeah.
One thing is this, that if suppose a developer has taken the money out, then the moment a default happens, an SFIO case should go to the SFIO, investigation should have started that where the money has gone, where he has refund of the money or not. But that is a separate issue. Now, the issue is this, that completion of the project, how to complete the project with the existing or available resources. Now, the IRP, NCLT or the RERA, all these three together should sit together and try to complete the project. Now, so far that investigation is concerned, it should continue. And if that guy is found in default, he should be penalized, he should be jailed, whatever is required should be done. But the project should be completed. Now, the issue is this, that because of this fight, project is not.
Projects are not getting
Correct.
resolved in
languishing.
many instances.
Correct.
NCLT, we haven't seen a single case where there has been serious
The system is failing again.
Yes.
So
And
the question here is that, sir, we have IBC, which is a comprehensive code which talks about a restructuring of a company which is not able to pay its own debts. Now, that is the objective of the spirit of that IPC. We have a judgment of NCLAT, which is of 11th February, which is a very recent judgment, which says that the resolution plan will have to be of that particular project for which this IRP proceedings have been commenced. Now,
in this case, it was possible, is it?
in that case, it was possible because there was no other lender, there was no other projects in that company. That is possible. But think of a scenario where most of the projects in our country are developed by a flagship entity,
Yeah.
where they have thousands of projects which are under one umbrella.
Yeah.
And if one default has triggered the CARP process against that company and the company is before the NCLT, the resolution applicant, that means the prospective bidder, will be bidding for that company.
Yeah.
Under the IBC, they cannot pick and choose one project
Yeah.
and
You can't take
and
out the
bid for it.
viable projects and leave the others,
Correct.
right?
So this will lead to a cherry picking of the projects where, okay, I don't like this project, therefore I don't want this project. Or I like this project, there is cash flow is which I can envisage, and therefore I will bid for this project. So this will lead to a lot of practical issues. If this judgment will have to be implemented, and if there is no cash flow in that project, no one will come and bid for that
So
project.
this is the first problem with this judgment when it is applied across the board,
Correct.
right?
So this-
Now the consumers are asking about the other provisions of this order, and I'd like to pick that up. There's Simranjeet from Noida who says, what is the reverse corporate insolvency process? And there is a reason why Simranjeet is asking. Let me just quickly refer for those who haven't read the judgment. As we find it is very difficult to follow the process as in normal course is followed in a CIRP, we are of the view that a reverse corporate insolvency resolution process can be followed in the cases of real estate infrastructure companies in the interest of the allottees and survival of the real estate companies, and to ensure completion of projects which provides employment to a large number of unorganized workmen, the bench said in its order. First of all, I think the entire resolution is not so that we can provide employment. I think we're barking up the wrong tree there. If you want to give employment, you create projects which follow the norms.
Correct.
The second thing I think what they're asking is reverse corporate insolvency resolution process. Now, Abhilash, what is a reverse?
So intent is good.
No, first let's explain to the consumers.
Yeah, the intent of the NCLAT is good.
Yeah.
So the reverse resolution mechanism, which has been envisaged in this judgment, is that where they are saying if the promoter is capable of developing the project, if the promoter has the bandwidth and the financial strength to develop the project, he should be allowed to come back and continue with the project. That is what this judgment is.
So reverse corporate insolvency means that the developer, the outgoing developer has a re-entry provision into the project again, if he can.
Correct.
Now, Prabhakar, your views.
Yeah, now this is very peculiar situation. Now,
We've seen in the JP case how much the consumers fought against this.
I asked them that if suppose Manoj Gaur, the existing JP authority, this developer, he is ready to complete the project, what's problem you have? They said that no, we don't have faith in him, number one, and number two, we want to penalize him because he has made us suffer for quite long. So the project should not go back to him, it should go to anybody else. And they fought for it. And particularly, these buyers were the owner of the company because not only the creditors, they say that. And as per the NCLT, they become almost the owner in the COC. They were in the majority.
They are the maximum money invested in the project was as a group of buyers, right?
Now, at the same time, IBC also says that original defaulted developer or defaulted company should not be allowed even to bid for the company.
Now, isn't this order against that spirit of the original IBC that if you haven't completed, you are not allowed to come back?
Correct. So this may not be this part of the judgment may not be a good precedent for the other cases where you can let the defaulted or a willful defaulted promoter to come back and take over the company and start the development. In this case, this was possible because it was.
No, if whatever he's saying, it's
no,
fine.
1 minute,
but
let's hear why it's come in this. There is a reason
in this case, it was a single project in this company, which this is promoted by the Opal Group, and the Opal Group said that okay, we will not participate in this entire process. We will stay out of the CRP process, and we are happy to complete the project. And I think. The court also looked at the fact that okay, this project is nearing completion and there is a promoter who is willing to complete the project, and they also looked at the percentage of the work which has to be completed, and they said okay, in this case this is something which I can permit the promoter to come back and to complete the project in a timely manner.
In that case, it should not have been allowed in the NCLT itself, and the IRP should not have been appointed in the first place. Number one. Number two, in this case itself, the NCLAT judges should have at least found out that whether damage for the delay period is being paid or not. Now suppose tomorrow somebody can claim it that had this project gone on the auction, some buyers, some developer would have come and would have said that I am not going to only complete the project with the resources available in the project, I would have given them the damages also for the delay period. Then what does the judge will say?
So two things are there. One is NCLAT or NCLT. We don't have the power to look into that aspect, whether a compensation has been paid to the buyer or not.
Is that not the part of the liability of the company?
It is a part of the liability of the company, but you cannot look into that aspect on an individual basis. That will be looked upon by the COC as when they consider the resolution plan.
But the COC was not formed.
COC was not formed. COC was not formed.
In which case, the two people who went to the NCLT and got the order, does this is that viable? The rest of the people challenged the very provisions of them going to the NCLT and delaying the process.
Right. So that is where that relevance of the pioneer urban judgment, if you remember, that's a landmark judgment, which said that okay, all projects cannot go to NCLT or IPC.
At least 100 buyers.
Apply a test there. You have to apply a test. That is it a genuine buyer who is dragging this developer to the IPC?
So filter there.
Correct. Or is it a buyer who is seeking a refund because of the market conditions right now?
Yeah.
But he
should not be allowed.
Should not be allowed.
Yeah.
So that is where the NCLT should have applied that test in this case, that when the project is nearing completion, the flat buyers association is in existence, they haven't approached the forum, and before admitting the petition, at least NCLT should have heard that the flat buyers association.
Now this,
No,
this
rejecting the
let's-
case on that count, understandable. I can understand that point
Yeah.
itself. But accepting the case and saying it that no, you carve out a separate project from the company and allow it to go to NCLT or not to go to NCLT.
they
I mean,
did not have
That
to,
is-
they did not have to carve it out because this was the only project in this company.
In this case, but look,
In
let's-
this-
Why saying then that?
Yeah, the fact is
but,
that
yeah,
the
this is a precedent,
judgment,
because it's a NCLAT,
It's a-
this
yes.
appellate tribunal
Yes.
judgment is a precedent for the other
Yes.
cases.
absolutely, and
Because
it can lead to a lot of
practical difficulty.
practical
It is
difficulties.
going to, it is not possible, it is not easy to implement this judgment in its true sense.
Right. Let's. There is one more query, and I think this is the second part of this. This is Medhavi from Bengaluru. I want to know if a project went to NCLT, then can I ask for a refund now? If yes, then how can I proceed for the same? And I think consumers need to know that this is also part of this same order. In case the homeowners of such projects wish to seek a refund for the particular project of the real estate company which is undergoing CIRP, they are open to sign an agreement either with the interim resolution professional or the promoter to find a new buyer and get the money back if and when that flat is sold, it added. Now, here is a big issue. If the IRP's job is to sell the flats individually and refund that consumer, is that what the IRP is supposed to do? Isn't he supposed to make the company solvent?
Correct, correct. He has to restructure the company, he has to run the company,
Yes.
he has to complete the project in whatever ways and means.
Yeah.
He cannot sell those individual flats and refund the money to an individual flat buyer.
That has to come into
Now-
a common pool to complete the
Correct. So
project.
that goes itself against the spirit of the IBC. IBC is not a law or a legislation where we can seek refund.
Yes.
It is meant for restructuring a company which is unable to pay its debts. So the
However, an individual buyer can sell his project, his flat in the market
correct.
and can inform the IRP
Correct.
that boss, I have sold, now this is the credit, the new buyer will become the creditor.
Correct.
I am exiting the project and this should be allowed.
Correct.
This should be
This
allowed,
should
not
be
the
allowed.
IRP selling.
Not the
right?
IRP selling.
Absolutely correct. So in this judgment, what NCLT is suggesting is that if you want to seek a refund, you come to the
Yeah.
IRP. IRP will enter into a tripartite agreement. IRP and the erstwhile promoter and the flat buyer who is willing to sell the flat will enter into an agreement. Under that agreement, you will record the fact that you would like to surrender the flat and get a refund of the money. Now that IBC doesn't envisage such a situation.
It is
You
against the
cannot-
spirit of IBC. It has to
A
make
home
it
buyer-
solvent.
A home buyer is a financial creditor. You cannot settle one financial
Exactly.
creditor on a standalone basis.
Right.
Yeah, you cannot.
You have to consider the interest of all the creditors in the company,
Absolutely.
which includes financial creditors, operational creditors, secured creditors, unsecured creditors, government dues, employees. You have to
Yeah.
consider that as a comprehensive package. You cannot settle with one flat buyer on a standalone basis.
Exactly, and that is where the reason why we picked up this particular order was there were many things that this order was throwing up, which we felt was at many levels it was against what's happening in the market.
Correct.
The IBC law was created so that companies which could not complete their projects could be declared solvent. Now, another thing is that all the property of the company has to be utilized in such a way that projects go through to completion and the larger good is served, right? That's why you have
In
a
fact, this
COC.
judgment indicates that IBC is not meant for the real estate sector.
This is
Let's keep it outside the purview of the.
But it's
for the
not
IBC.
outside. But the point is, Prabhakar, it's not outside the purview. And the fact that so many consumers are logging in and asking their queries means that it is actually almost slowing down the process rather than speeding up the
So
process.
my advice as a real estate law practitioner to the home buyers is that IBC and NCLT is not the first resort to the buyers. You have a fantastic law in this country which is yet to be tested and which is not utilized to its fullest potential, which is RERA. Go to those authorities and then play out your grievance in front of the authority and tell them that the RERA gives you the compensation, the remedy the redressal. So that is something which they should seek. Taking a company to IBC, a real estate company to IBC, is not going to help a home buyer. We have enough examples.
Yeah.
And actually,
We have
Abhilash,
enough
I think,
examples in front of us.
Yes.
None of the real estate companies have
Yes.
been resolved through the IBC process yet.
actually, Abhilash, I think for the consumer's frustration is also that
Yeah.
many have got their orders from RERA, but it has not been executed. Many RERAs themselves are very, very nascent. Telangana is a big example. Such a active real estate market. The fastest growing real estate market of the country is Hyderabad today. And in Hyderabad, if your developer defaults, it's a very, very slow and tedious process. If you can at least find out, it's not even an online process. So here the consumer is in a quandary. It's a lot of money you've paid and the consumer doesn't know where to go. And that's where consumer is running between NCDRC to NCLT to RERA. But when orders like this come, you actually clear the pitch. The NCLT as a medium of being able to resolve. Either it should have been defined that this order is for this one case only, where one project that's the only project that company owns. But because it's an NCLAT order and because the consumers today assume that it can be used across the board, what stops, say, a SARE buyer, which SARE is a company which has many consumers, money came from overseas, money crunches there, the entire management.
Lenders are there in that project.
Yeah, there are many other lenders in the project.
Operational creditors are also.
That's right. And there are many projects in different stages of completion. The last project is not even started. It hasn't been registered in RERA. It's not even begun. But consumers have paid 30, 40 lakhs. What should those consumers do? Looking at this, they feel that now we can go to NCLT and say, take my project away from. Can the NCLT or the NCLAT give a similar order, say in a case like Cyril?
Well, in my view, that is not possible, and this, I'm sure, this judgment will get will be looked into by the Supreme Court, and probably this may be reversed.
Yeah.
The reason is that when you restructure a company, you submit a resolution plan for restructuring that entire company, not for a particular project.
That's right.
The reason why I'm saying that it may not be a feasible proposition here is that you will have lenders in each real estate company, and the lenders would have given money to that company for multiple projects. Now, that is one scenario. Second scenario is you have operational creditors who have supplied goods to this real estate company, and those goods have been used in various projects. How do you
assign
that particular debt to each project?
Yeah.
That is not possible.
Not possible.
Yeah.
That is not possible. So when you submit a resolution plan, you have to submit a resolution plan vis-a-vis that company, not vis-a-vis this project.
Yeah.
That is a difficulty which the companies are going to face.
Sure. Now
I'll trying to find a solution under IBC, and then he has landed it.
And it has
himself
taken
into
it
this
right
kind
out
of
of,
situation.
he's taken it
So
right
I-
out of IBC.
Yeah. So now I believe the government should come out with some kind of a solution between IRP and RERA and NCLT, so that a practical solution buyer should have.
So in my view, post the amendment,
Mhm.
now you need 100 buyers to go to initiate IBC as a financial creditor.
That is challenge the Supreme.
Correct. That's the, but
Either 100 or 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
So now the good thing is that wherever you have 10% or 100 buyers, that means that project is in a serious trouble.
Yeah.
So only the genuine or legitimate cases will go to IBC. That's fine.
Okay, let's take a hypothetical case of a project which has 100 buyers. And that, which means that 10 buyers can go and become 10% and they can file a case.
Absolutely.
Now, if these 10 buyers go and file a case, does this mean that the rest of the buyers will also be covered in the solution?
They will be covered in the solution.
Because they become a COC.
Obviously.
Right? This is a important message that I wanted to give out. Just because, first of all, you need 10 people who will stick their neck out and say that I'm going to the NCLT to find a resolution. Then you need, then the rest of them will be covered in the solution that emerges,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
And
This-
the objective is to get the company restructured and get the project completed
Solved.
and get the ownership of those flats in favor of the buyers.
Suppose that project does not have the wherewithal to complete, if it is not even begun. can the IRP then say that this land which was to house the project can be sold and this can be settled, or it will come into the central pool?
No, IRP will not have that power to sell that land and refund the money to the buyers. It will have to be decided by the NCLT when there is no resolution applicant. And the COC will have to reach out to the NCLT along with the IRP, saying that this cannot be restructured at that point of time.
But that's only one project. What about the other projects?
But then the court will say that, okay, now let's liquidate this company. We have to liquidate this company. The company will go into liquidation, and through the liquidation process, the assets will be sold and will be distributed amongst the creditors.
Now, what is the law says, sir? The 10% of the project or 10% of the company?
Of the real estate project.
The real estate project.
Right.
Though it could be only one project out of 10 projects of the company.
Absolutely correct.
But then they will
And the
take the
entire
entire
company will
company
go in
to liquidation.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a flaw, no?
Yeah.
That is a basic flaw in
See,
this
the-
entire process.
The issue here is that you would have noticed that we have a mix of cases. Certain developers who have specific SPVs under which they have the projects.
Yeah.
There are certain traditional developers or conventional developers who are developing the project under their flagship brand or the banner.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to come up with a very clear position on law.
Absolutely.
That's saying that okay, this can be applied to these cases or this can be applied to these cases.
Now that is reflecting in the kind of queries that I'm getting. There is Abhinav from Mumbai who says, I want to know how NCLT will deal with cases where most developers have adopted complex structures to protect their land bank. While one company would own the land, the other would deal with the construction of the project. In this scenario, when the constructing company went into insolvency, the land assets are safeguarded by the other entity. These are unique cases that NCLT needs to
No,
address.
this is not possible. Now, what happens under the law, that the license will be issued to the company on which name
The land
is.
Yes.
Okay? So now he becomes the owner of the project. Now, any sale deed that is happening will happen through that who is the licensee.
Yeah.
Now, the contractor who is going to construct the project, he will be just a contractor, and he
Developer.
will be developer. He will be paid money for that his service that he is giving. to
Even
that
if it's a
company.
sister
It
concern.
is sister concern, that is the matter. So in that case, what happens that is a separate entity, separate company, it will be treated. And if this will go to the NCLT, then it is not very tough.
Land banks are not protected.
That is not protected.
So under RERA, both of them are promoters.
Yes.
Because the entity who is giving the land and they have the approvals in their name, and then you have the developer who is developing it and who is soliciting, advertising, marketing the project and getting the money from the customer. So under RERA, both of them have equal liability as promoters.
Not
No, but
under.
liability, no, so liability is on the name, on this licensee only, who is taking the license to complete the project.
No, in so far as the
That is, sir, in the
In the,
Vijay Gupta's case, that is, what is the name of the?
This is 3C and
3C.
Oris.
Oris. In the
Oris.
case of Oris, the Gurgaon RERA has clearly stated that because Vijay Gupta's company, Oris, is the landowner and the license has been issued to them, even though the Oris has entered into a separate agreement with 3C to complete the project
And to market it.
and market it on certain basis that 40% or 50% will be divided among them. But the onus to complete and deliver the project lies on Vijay Gupta.
Correct. So I do remember that judgment, and if you look at the judgment, that because and the court went into the RERA went into detail in that case.
Yeah.
I looked at the agreements entered between
And he defined that
Oris
Oris
and
and
separately.
3C.
Clearly.
And then the RERA said, okay, there is a liability on this landowner because the landowner.
And then there is a separate issue. It says
Correct.
that now the Oris can claim money from the
3C.
3C for the
Yes, in
for
that
the
case,
space.
they found that the Oris is a mere contractor there.
Yeah.
The role restrict to the extent of a contractor.
Yeah.
3C.
3C, sorry.
3C.
And not as a promoter and as a decision under.
But here we would like to then tell Abhinav from Mumbai that the landowner is the one who gets the license.
Exactly.
And according to RERA, the onus of completing that project, the liability is majorly with the licensee.
I think it will have to be looked into a case-to-case basis. There are instances where, so let's say, let's take the example of IREO.
Yeah.
So IREO, if you have the flagship entity and then have the SPVs. So SPVs are owning the land. and the license is
In
taken
most
as a
of the
joint.
cases, sir. In the case of DLF also, let
Yeah.
me tell you that the lands are owned by the SPV.
SPVs.
And the DLF is a contractor only.
Correct.
The owners of that entire thing is on the SPV,
SPV.
which has taken the license to
Correct.
complete the.
But then, if you look at the DTCP regulations and DTCP rules and the license issued by DTCP, the license is issued in the joint name of the flagship entity and the landowner entity. In such cases, the liability is also
Shared.
on the developer.
Shed.
Yeah,
It's a shared
but,
development.
but whatever liability or asset is created, that is created on the SPV's name.
Correct.
Now,
Absolutely.
whatever the loan is taken for that project is on the SPV's name, not on the group.
And the liabilities on the SPV members.
So
entities.
there is a reason to it. One is that there are certain securities or given against such loans.
And that is land mainly.
One is the land through the
Yeah.
mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second thing is the cash flow coming out of the project.
And not only this, remember, sir, that the flagship company gives loan to that company, SPV,
Yeah.
to complete the project.
And they also
And
guarantees that
charge
loan
interest
repayment.
on that, yeah.
Correct.
They can guarantee it,
Yeah.
but many company guarantee it for sake of fees also.
Correct.
They charge fees for that
They
also.
charge development fees.
Yeah, so that is like the Godrej you see.
Correct.
Now in the one case where the NCLT had appointed IRP, Godrej even said it that boss, we are just a contractor in that project. Basically the licensee is issued on their name and they are supposed to complete the project and deliver it on time.
Correct. I am just a development manager.
And development.
I'm not even a developer. I'm a
Yeah.
development manager.
Though he said that, okay, it is our responsibility also to deliver the project on time and to see to it
Correct.
that it should be developed and delivered on time. But ultimately, legal responsibility, legally the onus lies on that licensee.
Correct. So that you have to look into the agreements which have been entered into
Yeah.
between these parties and see.
And we
what
have
is
a
their role.
plethora of ways in which agreements have
Yeah.
been defined in the
Correct.
process, right?
Absolutely.
They're sort of from Ahmedabad. I want to ask, if the insolvency process is limited to the project level only, then can I approach NCLT for insolvency process for a different project by the same developer? Actually, I think sort of what we are saying is that the IBC does not allow you to go for a individual project. You as a group of buyers from a project, you can go and make your complaint, but the resolution had to be at the entity level, right? The company level.
We can to say that if I'm a home buyer, I'm a financial creditor.
Right.
I'm not a creditor to a real estate project. I am a creditor to that company. That is a difference. So you are not dragging one project to the NCLT. You are dragging the debtor to the NCLT under IBC. That is where the
The
difference
context,
is.
I think, is of this judgment of February 11th, where the NCLT has said, to reiterate, this particular case was very different. There was one company holding one project, and that one project, two consumers went to the NCLT. The rest of the home buyers challenged that, saying that the project was very close to completion. So whatever has been given is very applicable to this one project because it's just one company and one project. But in most cases, like Abhilash has been telling us, there is one company, multiple projects. So how do you effect the same judgment?
Correct. So when you have multiple projects, you cannot say that my
Yeah.
resolution plan is
That's right.
applicable to only one particular project.
That's right.
Now in this case, you would have noticed that these two home buyers who dragged the company to NCLT, eventually they got their flat, their possession, and they got even they got the sale deeds registered in their name. By the time the NCLAT judgment came in, now you are in a dilemma that you have the home buyer who has raised the grievance, doesn't have his or her grievance anymore.
Didn't
But-
become infectious in that case.
So once the petition has been admitted under section 7, you have to follow the process of the IBC. There is no the
But when
IBC.
he has already accepted the resolution at his level, then that.
You can't
You
have an
cannot
out of
withdraw.
court.
There is no provision for withdrawal. You cannot
wrong.
withdraw. You
That can be withdrawn only till the IRP is formed.
before the admission of the petition. Once the petition is admitted, that means IRP has been appointed by NCLT.
That is ridiculous.
And even if the resolution comes, the process carries on.
Yeah, that is another big issue.
There's Anshul from Mumbai who says, under this new law, while the project is in NCLT, can I approach RERA? You can always approach.
You can always approach it.
RERA is for the real estate segment, and there's no reason why you can't go to RERA. In
RERA
fact,
is an exclusive regulator. It's an
Yes.
exclusive regulator meant for home buyers, and meant for the buyers
But
of
once it
commercial
is
property.
accepted
Or
in the NCLT, the RERA says that let them decide first, then you come to me.
So,
because
yes,
of that
some of
pioneer,
the-
because of that judgment where they said that if there is a conflict between RERA and NCLT, NCLT being IBC being a later law, IBC prevails.
Correct. So
right?
that's what the pioneer judgment said. But
That's
then we have instances where the RERA continued with, because in the pioneer judgment, the court itself said that there is no problem in continuing with the RERA proceedings. So there are instances where RERA continued with the proceedings. But if a petition has been admitted by NCLT, then there is an automatic stay on all other proceedings.
Yeah, all
That
other
is called the
proceedings.
moratorium
Yeah.
under section
Yeah.
14 of the IBC.
Yeah.
So no other proceedings can continue
Yeah.
against that particular debtor.
So then you can't go to RERA, no? What will RERA
No,
do?
before admitting the
Yeah,
petition,
before
you can
admitting
always
the-
approach the RERA.
He's saying under this new law, while the project is in NCLT, then you can't approach
No, then you
RERA.
can't.
If the project is in NCLT,
You
if
cannot
the project
approach.
has been admitted before NCLT,
If
then
it
he
is
cannot.
if it is admitted and the IRP has been
Appointed. Then he cannot.
then you can't.
Correct.
But having admitted a case and then before the IRP is formed, there are instances where the developer has gone and done an out of court settlement
Correct.
and the case has been withdrawn, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
There are
IRP,
instances like
the defining process here is appointment of the IRP.
IRP.
There is, hello everyone, this is Abhinav from Hyderabad. What impact this move will have on consumers and developers in general? Will these lead to completion of projects and buyers can get their refund at the earliest? Now, this refund issue is going to create a lot of stress on the system. Can IRP sell projects, sell individual units and refund the money to the buyer? This judgment seems to suggest so. IBC does not.
Correct. IBC doesn't say that. So then you cannot settle with one creditor. You have to consider the interest of all other stakeholders, which includes the financial creditors, operational creditors, secured debtors, secured creditors, unsecured creditors. You have employees then, you have government dues to be paid, you have land dues to be paid. So you have a lot of factors which will have to be considered.
So it's not as simple as
possible.
take my house, sell it and give me the money.
Even debtor can't do that.
Yeah.
So the home buyer can go and surrender the flat to the
Yeah, to sell it in the market
Correct.
also.
They can sell it in the market.
Sell it in the
also.
market
Nothing
also.
stops.
Nobody stops them. And then inform the IRP that was I have exited. Yeah, I have done the sale.
There is no restriction.
Yeah.
Abhinav from Hyderabad, to answer your question, it's not as simple. You can't take the IRP is not authorized to sell an individual unit and then refund the money to you. It is IRP is authorized to sell that unit if you so desire to bring the money into the common pool so that the company remains solvent. The IRP's mandate is to keep the company solvent. I would like at this point like to tell the consumers that there is a poll that we are running. Should buyer's complaint be restricted to a specific project? It's a yes or no answer. Can you please take this poll? At the end of the show, we will tell you what the consumers
Yeah,
feel.
on this case, I want to
Yeah.
say one thing,
Yeah.
that in the case of JP, if you remember, when the NCLT was on, and the list of the buyers who wanted refund and wanted to surrender their flat, that was also published. And then Supreme Court didn't say that, okay, you sell these flats and give them the money
Yeah.
to the buyer. Or the Supreme Court didn't stay on the sale of the project. But they say that this guy will get money only after resolution is arrived at, and that too at a proportionate basis.
Yeah.
It's not that the money one-to-one, they sell the project and give it to money to them. They
That,
can like that.
even the excess flats that are there in the unit, in the project that are not sold, if those are sold, that money comes into the common pool, it goes into the escrow account, the projects have to be completed. Only after the project is completed, proportionately, all the debtors, all the creditors will get the money.
Exactly, those who want flat, they will get flat, those who want money, they will get the
They-
money proportionately. That is how it is.
There's
done.
Deepak Singh
It is
asks,
proportionately. It is not the entire refund which you are getting.
No.
I think that is where that biggest education has to happen amongst the home buyers, amongst the consumers. That when you drag a company to the NCLT, you should be very clear that if the company is not able to be restructured, you will not get your flat back. The company goes into liquidation and the assets will be sold. and the money will be refunded proportionately. Proportionately means you will not get the entire money what you have paid to the developer.
You will get, the lender will be settled.
There is a water flow mechanism which is given in the IBC for the liquidation of the assets.
Yeah.
So you will be in one of those
number three or
correct,
number four.
one of those
Right.
buckets, and you will get it proportionately.
Yeah.
You will not get your entire money back. So so the consumer will have to take a very conscious decision before dragging a company, a real estate company, into NCLT.
Exactly.
Does Deepak Singh, you asked, does project-wise insolvency mean that insolvency proceedings will get completed faster than usual? Will this decision speed up insolvency finalization? I want to lay a hypothesis. Please ratify it. I think this will serve as a prototype for those cases where one company, one project, a group of buyers, and if the buyers are together, aligned, then this may work. Do you think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but if it goes to the buyer only to complete the project.
But in that also, I don't think, like you're saying, the buyer will not. One individual buyer cannot take his. He cannot.
The entire buyer should agree.
Today homes.
Yeah.
Shubkamana is one of the projects where there is no resolution applicant, and the buyers are trying to put a resolution plan in place, but it's not happening because the buyers are not aligned and they don't have the bandwidth. The people who are
3-6 projects are there.
who are working, who are professional, they don't have the time to spend for developing a project. That is not their not their.
You only went to buy a product, not to build.
not to develop a project.
Not to develop.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's
a lot of people are facing that.
If NCLT is really willing to do this, then they should appoint such an IRP who has that wherewithal to complete the project.
That's
also.
right.
They should have that kind of a panel of the IRP who has that managerial skill
To complete a real estate project. And
They
real
should do
estate
that.
is not an easy business to run.
Absolutely.
And-
especially when we don't have a single window system in our country.
That's
Simple things are that if that project is completable, then the developer would have done it.
No, if you kept the money in the project,
That's a different issue altogether.
let's not say that the developer didn't complete only because there are some cases where
There are some
banks stopped lending, the consumers could not pay because in retail banks giving retail loans
एक
were
बात
not
देखिए,
lending.
मार्केट सबसे बड़ा विलन है इसमें। अब जो प्रोजेक्ट 2100 रुपया में लॉन्च हुआ था, वो आप बोलिए कि आज भी 2100 रुपया बायर देके बोलता है कंप्लीट करो प्रोजेक्ट। प्राइस इतने बढ़ चुके हैं कि प्रोजेक्ट को कंप्लीट नहीं हो सकते। चाहे कोई नया डेवलपर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर आ जाए, चाहे ओरिजिनल बायर रह जाए, चाहे बायर का ग्रुप ही चाहे कंप्लीट करने के लिए, सवाल है
पैसा आना चाहिए at today's rates.
Exactly.
But Mr. Sinha, the buyer's argument is that when I paid 3,100, why didn't you use that money in my project?
Exactly,
Why
sir.
did you siphon that money to?
आर्गुमेंट तो करते रहिए ना सर। आप उसके लिए उसको जेल डाल दीजिए, बायर को बुलाइए, बोलिए कि भाई साहब 400 रुपया स्क्वायर फीट और आपको देना पड़ेगा, प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट करवा लीजिए। 1000 फीट का फ्लैट है, 4 लाख रुपए और दीजिए, आपका जो पहले का 50 लाख रुपया पेड है वो आप रिट्रीव कर सकते हैं, उसको आप किसी तरीके से बचा सकते हैं। आप 4 लाख
So that will have to be done through the resolution plan,
Yeah.
which will come up before the CUC,
Exactly.
where the home buyer is also a part of that CUC.
Yeah.
But we don't see this argument going forward. No, we are still seeing most of these resolution plans at very naissant levels. Nothing is moving beyond a certain
Exactly.
point.
Because it is again the sentiment of the home buyer.
अब
Home buyer is saying,
अगर एनसीएलटी को कम से कम इस रास्ते पे सोचना चाहिए और एनसीएलटी के आईआरपी को इसके लिए काम करना चाहिए। आईआरपी अभी भी बस वहीं तक रुका हुआ है कि इस डेवलपर को फांसी दे देना। अरे दे दो उसको, वो सेपरेट इशू है। आप प्रोजेक्ट वाली कंप्लीट करिए ना, उसके लिए कोई काम ही नहीं करने
so that the home
को।
buyers will get some relief.
That's right.
So the home buyers, they are saying that you have solicited the project at a rate of 2,100, and today you are saying that I have to pay 2,500 per square feet.
IRP is saying, not that developer. That developer has been hanged.
No, IRP is saying.
For
Yeah,
various
the
reasons.
home buyer is saying that what is my fault?
Let's hold that down. We let the developer not be hanged. Let's wait till
No,
resolutions
I am
are
not
formed.
concerned about developers, sir. What
Yes.
I am concerned is that those projects should be completed at least. Those assets which are useless lying idle today will come in the mainstream.
Absolutely.
That is required today.
Prabhakar,
All
two
the
more
time.
queries I want to pick up. One is from Vaibhav. I want to know if a developer's project is in NCLT, should I invest in any other project of that particular developer? Now, if you are brave enough to know that there is a project that is stuck without resolution, you want to go ahead and buy another project from that same developer, I would salute your bravery. Let me actually put on my advisory hat here. This is something that this week in property was actually created so that consumers like you would understand that when you buy a piece of property, it is there is a you have a responsibility to yourself. It's your money. Figure out where the location is. Are you satisfied with the location? Figure out whether that project is suits you to stay in, if you're planning to stay in it. The third thing is, what is the track record of the developer? Has the developer got a good track record? Go check out the previous projects and see, are those livable projects? Otherwise, what will happen is, even if the developer completes the project and gives it to you, you will find that that project after 2 or 3 years becomes unlivable. These are some things that you have to keep in mind. Now, this is not a random question that you throw at a few experts and say that you told me to buy this project, so let me go and buy. Ultimately, the responsibility is yours. Even in today's market, while I have deepest sympathies for a lot of consumers, I believe that this market was spoiled as much by the consumers as by the developers. If the consumer was not trading on small pieces of paper, saying that I've bought it, I've sold it, I've bought it, I've sold it, and booking short-term gains, that is when the developer gets the idea that I have to launch more and more projects because these are the investors who are going to fix the markets. And that's where the end users have been struggling. Some of the end users did not do any kind of background checks when they went and bought. Just because your neighbor's uncle went and bought, you cannot go and buy. Does it suit you? Does this project reflect your aspirations? Because real estate is an aspirational buy. So I would actually say that it is not a small, a frivolous argument that we are presenting. A lot of people with a lot of money are struggling every day to be able to pay their EMIs, their rental outflows, and many of them are not even bankable. They've already retired. The effort is to resolve issues today. The effort is not to make a mockery of that.
So there is a study. I'm not naming the developer and the project in
Yeah.
NCR itself. Around 29% of the transaction happened in that group, the developer group, is because of this booking short-term
Yes.
gains which has been done by the various home buyers. They booked it and then they resold it and exited in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. That actually that created a problem there, that there is enough cash flow because the builder is also booking transfer charges from that initial allotee. So there was enough money in the project which was not utilized in the project.
Yeah. And there was no need to utilize it in the project because people were not bothered about, the investors were not bothered about whether that project is going to go through to completion.
Are they going to get the end product?
It was only when the end user stopped buying, saying that I don't think I'm getting the house in hand, that's when the cycle broke. And that happened roughly 4 to 5 years ago.
And the genuine home buyers are the victims of this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's not a frivolous
who are
thing.
paying the rent, who are paying the interest on their loans,
Yes.
and their money is already out, and
Yes.
they have already paid to the developers.
And many
There
have
is no
taken
return.
their retirement benefits, all kinds of things to buy the houses, and they are stuck. We actually have deep sympathy for them, and all this effort that Prabhakar and I are making week after week after week is to ensure that they get their houses.
Project has to be completed.
Project has to be completed. There is no two way.
The entire economy has come to grinding halt almost, sir.
And
Just because of that, today
Because
at least
employer.
6-7 lakh crores worth of real estate property, which is the wealth of the country, is lying idle.
Absolutely.
It is stuck.
absolutely.
It is stuck. There is no transaction is happening. Imagine that even it is happening 3 times, then at least 20 lakh crore transaction every year would have happened.
Yeah.
In 5 years, 1 crore rupee transaction would have happened.
So the life cycle of a multi-storied apartment, they are saying, that NBCC and all are saying, it is somewhere between 47 to 55 years. Now you haven't completed the project and handed over in the initial 15 years.
You've already taken away a
One
large part of the
substantial
life.
chunk of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Now the home buyer is going to utilize or get to use the house only for a limited
For
period.
2/3 of its life cycle. Yeah. Rishabh from Bengaluru says, is this move an ultimate solution to the dilemma between project completion and initiation of insolvency process against the developer? I don't think this is a solution at all. I think there was one order from the NCLAT on a specific case, like Abhilash has been explaining to us. It is on a specific case where one company had one project and all the buyers were aligned. Just two people went forward and complained. Even they have got their houses. Today, it is a technicality that you want to.
No, it's like the rejection of the case itself.
It's almost like the rejection of the case.
So that shows that
it should not have accepted the petition.
So that shows that there was no substantial development to be carried out in that project.
Yeah.
So they completed those towers and handed it over to those complainants,
Yeah.
or the people or the petitioners who dragged this company to NCLT.
Yes.
That has been done by the IRP, where the IRP doesn't have the expertise to complete the project.
Yeah.
So he realized that, okay, now certain things will have to be fixed in, certain infrastructure like a lift, electricity, water connection and all. He managed to fix that and he handed over the flats to those two petitioners.
Yeah.
So that shows that the project was nearing completion, which shouldn't have been dragged to NCLT.
So Abhilash, before we end, should we not say that what is wrong today is that anybody with the project at any stage is able to walk into the NCLT and say, here is my complaint, and take that developer down. I think there needs to be a checklist on
So there is already a checklist from the Supreme Court, from the Pioneer Urban Judgment, that clearly says that, okay, this is the criteria which you have to fulfill before admitting a petition before the NCLT.
Is the NCLT following that?
Unfortunately,
No.
not in all cases.
And
Not in all the cases.
that's where we're going to end this. It is not a resolution that is going to be an everyman solution. It is a specific case, and if your company has multiple projects, please do not think that this is the solution or the resolution that will work for you. However, you as consumers must think many times before you go to the NCLT. When you go to the NCLT, the entire company is going to go into solvency, which means that the IRP has to be able to make every project solvent before that company becomes solvent. Will you get what you are aiming for? I think in many cases, consumers go to the NCLT thinking that the developer will settle out of court. I think the numbers of developers who are settling out of court is becoming smaller and smaller, because more and more consumers, one or two consumers, they could have settled out of court. If the entire lot of consumers go there, they cannot settle out of court. If that money was there, they would have given it to you upfront anyway. So I think the important thing, as Prabhakar and I have been saying again and again, Magicbricks runs a hashtag complete stuck projects. If the projects are complete, many of these ills will go away. But are you being able to do that? Not yet. I think we are a long way off from resolution. We haven't seen too many any resolution coming out of the NCLT. And the NCLAT order itself is, by making this generalization, I think there are it's thrown up many problems in its wake. We ran a poll, should buyer's complaint be restricted to specific projects? Just 33% said yes. 67% of the consumers are saying no, it should not be restricted to a specific project. It has to be to the developer himself. That's where we're going to end this show. Thank you so much for watching This Week in Property. I'm Jayashree Kurup, this is Prabhakar Sinha and Abhilash Pillai from Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas.
Thank you.